Hi there. In this tutorial I'll be showing you a few tips and tricks on how to use basically entities with teleporters. And what I mean by that is basically using a single teleporter or a trigger zone to make the player or character basically teleport anywhere you want on the level. So first thing we're going to look at is basically how to set up a teleport using a dynamic entity. So first thing we're going to be doing is adding just a normal teleporter here. Now if you haven't watched our first tutorial on teleports, I suggest you go do that now, as I won't be explaining teleporters in detail here. Basically what I'm doing is just adding our first teleporter, and what I'm going to do is just tell you a little bit of what you can do with the entities here. Basically, with the teleporter in object here, you can make the player teleport anywhere on the level. You can use, of course, your teleport out if you want to, but let's say in some cases you don't want to have a teleporter out showing, so let's pretend you want it to use a light. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to go into the properties of the light here. We're going to have to make this light dynamic, and we're also going to have to give it a name that no other light or no other entity can have. So I'm just going to name it light 33. And basically what we have is our dynamic entity and our teleporter in. So I'm going to have to do in teleporter in to get this working is just change this if used property to our dynamic entity, so light 33. So basically what will happen is once the player walks inside this teleporter, he will be automatically teleported to where this light is. Of course, you can use stuff like you can use guns, ammunition, you can use furniture if you wanted to. You can basically almost use anything in the game as long as it's dynamic and it has a unique name. Let's pretend you used a gun or something, so let's say we used the shotgun here. I'm just going to place it down here. Let's pretend we basically teleported the player over to the shotgun. Once the player picked up the shotgun, if at any time he got back to this room and he walked over the teleporter, it wouldn't be able to find the object, so then basically this teleporter would be rendered useless. I don't know, you could probably find a use for this in your games, but right now I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. The next thing I'll show you basically is how to use a trigger zone and a dynamic entity, as we had before, to teleport a player into, say, another room or basically anywhere on the level. So I'm going to go ahead and go to markers and add our trigger zone here. Just going to place it in the middle of the room, and I'm going to go into it, view the properties. I'm going to have to change our main script here to basically use the same script as our teleporter, which is transport if used. And I'm just going to apply these changes and come back to this later. Like the same thing as with our teleporter, we're going to need a dynamic entity, so we can use lights, we can use say weapons, items, whatever. I'm just going to choose a light here, same thing as last time. I'm going to make it dynamic, and what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to right click to go into the properties. As you can see, I've already made it dynamic, and again I'm just going to give it a unique name. I'm just going to apply these changes. Now, like I said before, I'll come back into this trigger zone, and since we use this transport if used script, again we just have to fill in the if used property of our trigger. Now, one thing to remember when using trigger zones is they're a little bit different than teleporters, and what you have to do is, let's pretend I was walking around this level here. I could walk directly over this trigger zone and not be teleported into the next room. It's just the way that the trigger zone is set up. It can't really detect that the player is in there. What you basically have to do is jump into the trigger zone to be teleported into the next room. That's even if you use, say, you wanted to use a decal like acid or something, or if you were using an overlay such as a blood stain or something like that, you would still have to jump into the teleporter, or sorry, into the trigger zone, where if you use a teleporter in, all you have to do is walk over the object and you could be, say, teleported to the blood spat or this light here. But anyway, that's just a few simple tips and tricks to use with teleporters and their scripts. And we'll be continuing on with some of our other lessons here coming up, so we'll talk to you soon.